There is a podcast about an island in the North Atlantic where people have been looking for an incredible treasure for more than 200 years.
Hello and welcome back to Could It Be?
An Oak Island podcast.
We are your hosts, Deidre and Dustin White.
Hey, we are back with another post-season Oak Island interview, man. We're excited for this.
Yeah.
We have a special guest on today, and we would like to thank him for hanging out with us. This is Mr. Laird Niven. Welcome to the podcast, Laird.
Thanks for having me back.
Oh, man. Yeah, well, we've been looking forward to this for a long time, so thank you so much for joining us once again. We got lots of questions to get to. But thank you so much, and we're excited for this.
My pleasure.
First off, what have you been up to since you wrapped up on the island last year?
Yeah, we did a pregame with you before season premiere, and that was
what, November?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what have you been up to since kind of then?
We had a few weeks of cleaning artifacts, and the rest of the time it's been working on the report from last season, the work at the ball site, doing the artifact analysis, all that fun stuff, and getting ready for what might be coming up this year as well.
Yeah, I remember last year you mentioning, you've got to write the reports from the permits, right, that are taken out, because your reports and stuff don't get done. It all gets held up, right? Domino effect.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Like
I was lucky this year because Liz Michaels helped me out a lot with the artifacts, so that was great.
Yeah, it was cool to see you get a tag team partner out there.
Yeah.
So had you worked with Liz before, or?
No, she came. She was recommended by someone at St. Mary's.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely would have liked to see more with her, but you guys were very busy at the Ball Foundation this year. Wow.
Yeah, we had a lot done. We really did.
Yeah, it seemed like it. Like we would not see it for a number of episodes, but then we'd come back and it looks like it's
like a town's been revealed or something.
Yeah, it looked pretty.
It was pretty quiet there. I know every once in a while Rick would come up and say, "You guys are so lucky."
Well, yeah, it's crazy over in the swamp, and
yeah. It's one funny thing about kind of the work that you do and Rick is that toward the end of the season, he began loving archaeology, I guess. And like he was saying that he kind of loves using the trowel and getting down there. He was working on the stone road and the paved the pathway. Yeah. And oh my gosh, he was just loving it. So
those weren't ideal conditions either.
It was like it's a treasure hunt within a treasure hunt. I think he might be converting over to your trowel team.
We'll see.
Marty's not going there, but
but we did kind of hypothesize that maybe Marty got Rick a nice trowel for Christmas.
Jack brought a bunch of trowels at the beginning of the season. Yeah.
Very cool.
That's interesting because when we had interviewed you before, you said that Jack would make a good archaeology assistant because he was really good at those test pits.
Well, he's kind of a double-edged sword because he can move a whole bunch of dirt really quickly with a shovel, but he'll spend hours with the trowel just scraping away at a feature, right? So perfect.
Yeah, that is perfect. How small is your trowel now? You said you usually start with what, like a 5-inch or something?
Mine's like that right now. That's my old one, and this is my new one. So it's even
fancy.
Was that? Oh yeah, you said you special ordered one for.
Yeah, that came from England, hand forged. Yeah.
Geez, so now that we know that, we'll have to compare it at the end of this next season to see how small it got.
Yeah.
Put a year on each of them.
Yeah.
How much is they're due?
A lot. All right, cool. Well, we kind of want to start, this is kind of like a little bit of a season in review, kind of what we're going to do here at the top of this interview. But we want to talk about lot 15 because that's where you showed up first, I believe, in the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so a lot of work was done up in lot 15, and we had that's when we were introduced to or reintroduced to Aaron Taylor, because we had seen him in like at least one episode the prior season. But we also were introduced to Liz Michaels and David McInnes.
Yes.
It was a lot of fun to see all you guys over there, and I think what did Marty say? I hope this doesn't turn into the Fellowship of the Trowel.
Yeah.
He
was a little intimidated by all the archaeologists around.
Yeah. He was definitely outnumbered.
Yeah. Oh, it all worked out. I mean, that was an interesting feature. It was actually found by one of Billy's guys who brought it to our attention.
Interesting.
And
Michael John.
I was going to say it must have been Michael John.
No, it was before Michael John. It was the year before.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have mixed feelings about that. I initially didn't think it was anything at all. David's work proves that something happened there. In my mind, we just don't know exactly what happened, and we don't know when it happened. So.
Okay, so are you not 100% sold on pine tar?
I'm not sold at all on pine tar. Well, one thing that you did bring up in the show was that the thing that was said to have brought the original treasure hunters, like Daniel McGinnis, Anthony Vaughn, and them over to the area was like a fire or like bright lights. like a
so
fire.
The legend goes,
and so you had said, well, maybe it was something like this that they saw that took them over there in the first place, something where there was a constant burning. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah. The problem with the pine tar theory is that we didn't find any pine tar.
Okay. Yeah.
And from what I've read, at least in South Carolina, is that you'll find a lot of pine tar if that's what they were producing.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. The only pine tar I ever heard of in my life is in the baseball, because people put pine tar on the bats to get a better grip.
Exactly.
I don't really know the other applications of it. And I was going to ask you, if that was a pine tar kiln, what are they going to be using that for? I mean, it's supposedly to seal up boats and stuff.
You can seal up boats. You can seal up shafts too. Really, in theory.
Okay.
Use it on the outside of a shaft. I mean, the small shafts we found in Smith's Cove 2 years ago had tar paper around them. So you could use it for that.
Makes sense.
Even barrels, the outside of barrels. Yeah. It's just that we don't. There has never been a pine tar kiln found archaeologically in Nova Scotia.
Well, has there been a swamp road as such?
Not as such, no.
I had to close that loop there.
That one we know.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to the Stone Road and whatnot. But so I don't know. It was fun to see all the archaeologists gathered out there, and I think Rick really liked it. Marty was more like, I think just from watching the show and knowing a little bit of his personality on the show, he's like, oh my gosh, I hope this doesn't slow us down, kind of deal.
Well, David, he hasn't been in archaeology all that long, actually, and he's very old school. Every artifact we find, we measure the depth and exactly where it is and fill out 3 forms for every nail, everything. So his head would explode on the ball site, for example.
Oh my gosh.
But very meticulous. He was there probably 5 weeks longer than he had planned. So, yeah.
That doesn't sound unusual for Oak Island. I mean, it's kind of like you came to the island, and I'm sure you didn't plan to be here this long.
No.
I mean, it was initially first a couple shorter jobs.
Well, the first 2 years I said, oh, okay, this is it. There's nothing else for them to do. And then each year we have a list of things to look for.
Oh man.
Keep having to dig deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had the stone that was there in the proposed pine tar kiln that
the
the drilled hole.
Yeah.
like all over the island. Do you think that was potentially something that was done the same time as the structure?
Well, that's what we're debating. That was really cool, actually, because I think that was about the same time we started working with Aaron Help.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
And she was looking for rocks with holes drilled in them, and
there you go.
All of a sudden that thing comes up, and we're it wasn't clear to us if it had been. It could well have been moved to that position. Yeah, it wasn't clear that it had always been there. But I mean, it's definitely, you could take Steve's RTK and stick it in that hole, right? It definitely could have been related to surveying.
Yeah, it looks a lot like the older like survey drilled holes I've seen around here just on my last hike. So yeah, that was fascinating.
Well, very cool. So you know, one of the things I liked about the scenes that you were involved in Lot 15 at the Pine Tar Kiln, or the supposed Pine Tar Kiln, was that you kind of had seniority over the other archaeologists, and you're like, hey guys, you got this, right? Peace out. I'm gonna go back with Rick and Marty up to the research center. See ya.
Yeah, it's good to be able to do that for sure.
Right.
Yeah, we thought that was kind of funny, but those guys were so eager and so excited to do what they're doing, and such a unique feature. You know, to this day, I guess still not to the bottom of it. So pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, it was certainly exciting and unexpected.
Yeah. Cool. So you want to talk about the swamp?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So we asked to do this last time. I want to give you an opportunity to change your mind if you want to. If I mean, you don't have to. Your feeling about is that a ship in the swamp?
Oh, I didn't. As I said, I haven't seen that episode.
Oh yeah.
Because last year you said it's definitely not a ship in the swamp when we talked.
Is that the same anomaly they're looking at?
Yes, the same anomaly that we're looking at.
Well, that's what they keep telling us through the narrator, through Robert Clotworthy. You know, maybe I don't know. It could be a magic of editing thing, trying to make it into a more cohesive TV show, and maybe it's just a happenstance thing because they are finding pieces of wood and they're thinking, oh, maybe these are parts of ships. So.
Yeah. See, Jack calls me Negative Niven, right?
Yep.
Because I'm always skeptical. It's very difficult to ascribe something immediately to a ship. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it'd be really cool to find one in there.
Right.
And I think I don't know how they plan, what plan of attack they'd use to find it, because that becomes a huge archaeology project.
If it really ends up being a ship.
Yeah, really huge and potentially really expensive because you have to conserve it and do things like that. But I thought, I'm not sure why it's reared its head again. Like what they're basing that on.
So we haven't got to seeing it, I guess.
Yeah. On the show, they're talking about building up a new cofferdam. And kind of toward the middle-ish of the, like, into the water and into the swamp through the road, in kind of like the middle of the swamp area. And I think that's why they're bringing up a lot of it. And I don't know. I think
potential ship parts.
Yeah.
Which isn't unusual given, you know, that's the stormy side of the island, and things will get washed in there, right?
Yeah.
Well, at the beginning of the season, they were talking about putting up a cofferdam more toward the eastern part of the front of the swamp, and now it's kind of moved to the middle because I think they're wanting to see if the stone road kind of extends further, and they found
a large log also towards the front that weren't able to explore later. So if it's a ship, I mean, all hands on deck. Literally.
Yeah, no kidding, right? We won't have enough archaeologists to work on that. But I don't know. I would be surprised.
If you have to bring in a whole army of archaeologists, we'll have Terry saying this.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere.
I miss him.
Aw.
I bet he misses you too.
Oh yeah.
You didn't get to hang out with him a whole lot last year, at least not on TV.
Yeah.
I no, actually, and even casually, because we're in different. He was in Lunenburg, and I was in Mahone Bay, so we were a good half an hour away. So well, 20 minutes away. So
plus, you're riding your bike everywhere,
right?
Plus, yeah, I rode my bike to Lunenburg, but I wasn't gonna have drinks with him and then ride it back at night. So.
Please don't.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah, how is the bike riding stuff going? You still doing it?
Yep.
Yeah, nice.
Winter, it's not so easy in the winter, but I've discovered I'm not a cold weather bike rider. So, but yeah, I went out just the other day. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Very cool. All right, so so there were a few artifacts found in the Stone Road area, but not very much. Like I think Aaron Taylor described it at one point as like it's almost like they're cleaning up after themselves, right? And then we're moving up toward we go kind of up that Stone Road area, that the part that's coming into the swamp.
Yeah.
And then there's kind of this pathway that goes up the eastern side of the swamp, and they're finding all sorts of artifacts, or at least Rick was. We saw Rick with like dustpans full of pieces of pottery that he's finding like all over the place. So, yeah, I mean, do you have any idea why there would be stuff closer to, like, it was primarily even closer to the eye of the swamp on this pathway rather than finding things on the Stone Road?
Well, we found some pottery from the 1830s, 1840s sitting on top of the Stone Road. I think maybe an ox shoe, lots of coal, obviously, which I thought is pretty telling. Where they were finding the artifacts, they were starting to go up to the uplands, so the higher ground. And there was a farm there. Actually, I have the picture of it somewhere here. Is it the Vaughn farm? Yeah. So they're getting closer and closer. So the Graves farm, they're getting closer and closer to the Graves foundation.
Yeah.
And the edge of where he would have been clearing his fields.
Okay.
So that kind of edge of fields is basically where they were disposing of everything, right? You find lots of rocks, and then all their garbage, because there's no municipal garbage service, right?
Right.
So they weren't going to use that. So that's where they take and throw all their garbage as well.
That's one of the things I mentioned to you like a couple weeks ago. Like maybe that's their like garbage dump.
So are we digging through their dump site is really, I guess, the question, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something that might get explored this year.
Cool.
Yeah.
Maybe that's all their garbage burning.
Because Steve surveys in every little concentration of artifacts, right? So we get a good idea of what's happening where.
Cool.
They said 700 objects were found this year. We recorded it, right? And we saw it on the season finale, which was double what you had found the previous year. That just blows my mind that you guys recovered so much. I'm wondering if all the artifacts you found over at the Samuel Ball site are included in that 700, or
no, because we found more than 700. I think we found 1,900 or something like that. Now, there's not big, but
yeah, but there's still artifacts and finds. I remember at the beginning of the season, you mentioned you and Steve were talking about how you had done some of your own surveying to mark, finds. It sounds like you did it 1,900 times to me.
Yeah, we didn't measure in everything. We have our own squares within which we find the artifacts, but you just can't measure in that. It becomes useless to measure in 1,900 artifacts anyway, right?
No, exactly. So
yeah, Steve's map was pretty impressive at the end of the season. So
yeah, it gets pretty busy.
Yeah, well, how surprised are you with all the progress that was made last year when a lot of the plans at the beginning of the year kind of got canceled because they had, they wanted to do X, Y, and Z, but they had to switch over and do ABC,
Yeah, and if this season continues, it's going to probably start much the same way. I mean, last year we started with all Nova Scotia crew, and so very small crew, kind of bare bones, and limited to what we can do.
Makes sense.
And I think it may start the same way this year. Yeah.
Figured as much. We didn't think we'd be in this position, but
no, and we had quite a spike, but we're going down now. So
good.
Yeah, good to hear. Yeah, it's just kind of amazing what you guys were able to accomplish and how you're able to switch on the fly, kind of like you. I don't know, you changed the trajectory of what you guys were doing to, be flexible, right? And you guys were extremely flexible, and then it really paid off. And it's I'm really happy that you had what we affectionately call the trial team there to help you, and they were all great characters on TV too. So
yeah, no, you have to be able to change, especially, and that's even just if this is an archaeology project or a search without cameras. You have to be flexible, but you add cameras and a production company into that. They have directions where they want you to go, right? So it's even tougher with them.
I can imagine. I mean, but at the same time, it's good as treasure hunters or people. We get comfortable with the normal routine, right? Within Money Pit or whatever, and we can get our confirmation bias and want to continue on these trajectories. But you were forced to do something else, which is obviously bared fruit. A lot of it. So.
Yeah, the Stone Rose was a surprise, and they spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on geotechnical work in the swamp, and Ian Spooner found it with a big steel probe.
Yeah,
right.
So
let me do it with a stick. Watch this, guys.
That was amazing, though. Like at the beginning of the season, we saw Dr. Spooner and Tony Sampson out there just in a little dinghy paddling around, and he was just sticking it in the water. And he's like, "Hey, there's something here." And then they look deeper, and boom, changed the whole season.
Yeah, it actually did. Yeah.
We feel like Dr. Spooner is definitely one of the MVPs of the year. He was a lot of fun to watch. He wasn't on every episode either, but what he brought was really fun. So,
that Stone Road was a big save, right?
Very cool.
That contributed a lot.
It does, and it literally leads you to other places, right? I mean, who would have thought? Well, I guess if we would have followed Tony in like season 1 and 2 when he was pulling up rocks that were actually the Stone Road. Whoops.
It's hard to know.
It is.
You got to pick and choose your battles, right?
Yeah.
And they've been focused so hard in the Money Pit for all these years. It's hard to take your eye off of that and look in a different direction. But thankfully, we were able to do that this year, because if they were able just to proceed as planned, who knows what they would have done, but we wouldn't have had the Stone Road, and that would have just been something sitting under all the sediment unexplored to this day. And
exactly.
So I'm glad they were able to find it. It's really cool. Another member of the trial team we were introduced to, kind of like when we did do more Stone Road work with the team, was Miriam Emerald. So she was a lot of fun to get to know on the show and see her working out there with Dr. Taylor.
Yeah.
And didn't you? Okay, so Aaron Taylor had an interview yesterday. Is that right? Or 2 days ago with the Curse of Oak Island Beyond.
Yes.
And I guess he had worked with Miriam before.
Yeah, and he recommended her and brought her in.
Very cool. So it was fun to have her on the screen as well. And like we were saying earlier, it's fun to have the trial team kind of taking over the island. And they even converted Rick Lagina. That's a big deal.
Yeah, and I think was it last February I got a call from Kevin Burns, and he wanted more representative. He wanted the archaeology to be more representative, right? Because archaeology is really at least 50-50 male female.
Really?
Right. So having another white male on the crew wasn't exactly what we wanted. So we were really lucky to get Liz and Miriam to come work with us.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw this meme the other day that said, something about archaeology and how there's more women archaeologists than men because they're really good at digging up the past.
Oh God!
Did you hear that?
No.
People have mentioned that a couple of times, and the story I have is the first time my wife visited the island, I looked over as we were having lunch, and she was sitting beside Gary, and I thought, oh God. The first thing he said to her was, my wife would make a great archaeologist. She can't dig up the past. So.
That's fun.
Well, it's interesting because we know at first when you came on and Gary, wasn't excited to have an archaeologist, but you two seem to be like tag team, like best friends at this point, because he'll be like, stop, we need to get Laird. And
and that's what I'm trying to convince the province that metal detecting can be a good thing. Mm-hmm. It's technically illegal, right? Here.
All?
Yeah.
Like anywhere?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So, but it's used in the States. They use archaeology. They battle the bighorn. They use metal detectors. And in England, they use them all the time for archaeology. Mm-hmm. So he's finding things in places we would never go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And because we're mapping them, we're going to be able to understand the kind of settlement history of the island a lot better.
Yeah. That's crazy. So yeah, convincing them that it can be a good thing depending on how it's done, right?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Definitely an asset to
the team.
even to you and your work. So that's
awesome.
Yeah. So one of the fun things we saw at the end of the season was when he found that lead bag seal.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought it up to you, and you guys were looking at it, and he said, what did they say? They're talking about how old it was, potentially back to 1500 somewhere, all the way up to 1800. Mm-hmm. And he said, someone said, yeah, that's a top pocket find. And then Laird, you said, oh, I'm finally going to agree with you.
I've only seen one other, at least in my digs. They're not uncommon, but to have him find that on the shoreline was pretty cool and pretty telling, I think. It has a very specific purpose. People don't carry them around in their pockets. So
not unless they're their top pockets and
and you're Gary.
And you're Gary.
Exactly. But yeah, it's pretty cool. But dating it is it's probably 16th to 18th century kind of thing. That's about all we can tell.
Yeah, pretty tough. Imagine that's a lot of archaeology, though. Pretty tough to.
Yeah.
You guys do have good ideas on a lot of things too. Mm-hmm. One of the funny things is when they find something like, "Oh, Laird, okay, tell me everything you know about it," and you're like, "Whoa, bro, just like give me a minute to look at it."
Whoa, bro.
Well, I can imagine you saying that to like Jack.
Calm down.
Yeah, calm down.
I want Laird to tell him, "Yo, bro."
Sees him on the Christopher Oak Island,
right? Yeah. So speaking of, is the Ark of the Covenant hanging out in your basement?
I couldn't tell you.
Oh, I thought I'd try.
If you look directly below us on the screen right now, you see they're hauling away the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
And you're actually leading that. That's you on the front side of that Ark.
Oh, God.
Who you're carrying it with. But,
come to my house.
Yeah.
My wife would not be happy, I tell you.
I know.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah, I guess I should have led with, is your wife happy or not? And then I know for sure if it was in your basement.
No, she's seen this house turned into an archaeology lab more times than she'd like to remember.
That's funny. Yeah. Plus, we've all seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. None of us want that in our house.
Right?
No.
Cool. So you want to talk about the money pit?
Yeah. So last time we talked, we were talking about the money pit and asked how would you deal with it? Because digging vertically for vertical shafts didn't seem to make a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
That you, in your opinion, you take off the top layer, you find the tops of the shafts. Well, that to me sounds a lot like a big dig.
It probably would have been a smaller dig until before Dunfield covered it over and bulldozed it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised that it hasn't been at least attempted.
Mm-hmm.
Because the big problem with the drill is just it's the amount it travels.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which they only found out as of last year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
scopes and the walk and
yeah, exactly. So I'm surprised that they certainly haven't asked me to go do anything there.
no.
I'm surprised they haven't taken that approach.
Well, with it potentially just being locals at the beginning of this year, I'm just saying maybe it is time to put Laird in charge of the money pit and see what happens.
One scrape at a time.
Yeah.
One big truck.
I think it'd be cool to find a shaft. I really do.
Yeah.
Right.
It would be a lot of fun. Yeah. So this season on the show, we saw Terry out there almost every day. And then we had Charles was hanging out with them a lot. We also had Steve out there a lot and Scott Barlow. That's kind of the money pit team. And Rick would check in with them all the time. But yeah, you don't get up there very often then at all, right?
No, they're a tight group, and they argue a lot. What's that?
I said, do they not let you into their little clique, the money pit boys?
Oh, I'm definitely on the outside of that. Yeah, which is fine because they fight a lot too, right?
Ooh, I love it.
I don't need that in my life. They're literally like brothers. They'll blow up at each other, and then the next day everything's fine. They work a lot of hours, and it kind of gets to them.
Yeah, so like if I was digging in the money pit, it would drive me crazy knowing how much, like trying to drill a 4-inch borehole and straight down and having it, having the end of it end up 20 feet from below you, like 20 feet away. That would just drive me insane.
Yeah, but they're not getting 20-foot walks anymore, not with choice. It sounds like, I mean, from what I've seen, it's like at most 5 feet. Like,
okay, well,
I mean, at least that's what I've seen.
I don't know how many times I've ever said this in my life, but if you're off by an inch, you're off by a mile when it comes to digging underground.
True.
I remember once, I think it was last year, where they were digging for a south wall, and they hit wood, so they hit the wall. But when they did the gyro work, they realized they hit the north wall, not the south wall. So,
oops.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I love seeing all the progress out there. Even at the beginning of the season, they thought that there was some shiny gold objects in the wall of C1 again. We were just watching that last night, and
now we're moving to the west versus the east, and
one of Dr. Spooner's like his revelation at the end of the season that there could be alloys of silver down there. Do you have any thoughts about that?
No, I missed that whole thing.
Yeah, well,
he's in his happy place. He's at the ball station.
We know.
I think that may be a case where what he said was extrapolated a bit more than he meant.
Aha.
Gotcha. Well, we're gonna hold on to it anyway.
Yeah. At least he said silver.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And zinc and copper. So yeah. So that brings us actually to crushing of dreams. That's on my list here, like of the things to talk to you about, because the negative Niven, the moniker that
that Jack gave you.
Jack. So like Gary's out there, he finds this amazing and what looks like to be incredible cane topper, or this incredible swagger stick topper.
Yes.
And you take a look at it and you're like, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of love that.
I usually say, I hate to do this, but
you just bring everybody back to earth.
I know, which makes terrible TV.
No, it makes great TV. In that war room, you're like, I thought it was a lipstick cover. And then bada bing, bada boom. Oh, you were right. It was a lipstick cover. 5
minutes later, all over Facebook, people had found all these lipstick covers that looked like it.
It's pretty amazing what they can do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. But then we also had the gold shiny object.
Yes. So we were teased with all season.
Yeah, like before the season even started, they would show us this knob that looked gold, and it glinted in the sun.
Yeah.
And everybody's so stoked about it. And I think Gary's like, get over here and take a look at this, Laird. And you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's a gold painted knob.
Yeah.
Well, until you flipped it over and said, oh, that looks better, and gave us all a little tiny bit of hope.
Yeah, but it wasn't gold.
No, it was brass. It looks like. Took it to Kelly, and it was still a really cool artifact.
It's like, what is that guy doing in the swamp? Or could that have been something that was tossed out and rolled down the hill from who'd you say, Vaughn? No, the other. I don't remember the name of the
white is, I think.
What were we saying? The trash? Who was throwing out the trash? Which
not Vaughn.
Graves.
Graves.
Yeah, sorry.
So like maybe that was something that the Graves family had tossed out because it broke and it rolled down the hill into the swamp, and Gary finds it, 100 years later.
Yeah.
I think that my favorite crushing of dreams moment happened to be Steve's leather.
The wash table.
Yes.
Yeah.
That he was sure it was a bookbinding.
He was so excited about finding this piece of leather, and he's really proud to show you, Laird.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I feel especially bad when it's Steve.
He can take it.
Well, yeah, because I'll sit there at the wash table with him, and as soon as he starts to move his hand, I'll say it's a rock.
Boom. I love that.
Oh, we tease him about that early in the season.
Yeah,
right?
we tease him about rocks all the time. Because
now Michael John has an eye.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For not rocks.
For not rocks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we heard that he is called Eagle Eye. So or not Eagle Eye, Hawkeye.
Eagle Eye.
No,
Hawkeye. I'm gonna call him Hawkeye.
Yeah, so he was impressive out there. But yeah, we tease Steve all the time. Nobody's better at finding the rocks than Steve Gupta.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he gets really excited when something else gets found, right?
Of course.
Do we think that Steve's shoe piece and then the shoe heel all go to the same shoe?
Oh, I don't know. To be honest.
I tried.
You tried.
I tried. Like a big puzzle, we're getting some of those pieces together.
Yeah. So something that was pretty cool. A couple weeks ago, we saw a behind the scenes episode. It was like a special Maddie Blake special, drilling down, where he literally went behind the scenes of the show, like the trailers. They showed the lunchroom or the lunch tent or whatever, and they showed kind of how everybody gets mic'd up every episode.
Yeah,
and it gives us a lot. Like it gives me appreciation for what you guys do, and how it's amazing how they hide all that stuff from the viewers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such like you don't expect
an
like
army.
So one point they had I think. Okay, they were actually over with you guys in lot 25 on the special, and they showed Gary doing some metal detecting. But they have like, I don't know, 20 people there with cameras and microphones and all sorts of stuff. And it's just like, wow, for real.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Yeah, you have what? Well, if it's Rick has 3 cameras on him all the time. You have the one sound guy. Usually 2 producers, and then 3 support people. Yeah, it's really quite a production.
It's funny that this treasure hunt that's been going on for so long has resulted in this, and it's really cool.
It is. It's a real phenomenon, and it's amazing, as you guys know, how much people get invested in the whole search and in the show, right? It's kind of astounding.
Oh yeah, so many people invested, like very invested. It's something that's kind of crazy. Deidre and I have talked about this kind of jokingly, but it's kind of a fact. Like we talk about you and Steve sometimes when we're like, well, Steve is basically the most famous surveyor in the entire world right now. And then we're like, Laird is probably the most famous archaeologist in the entire world right now too, because like literally you get seen by 3 million people just in the United States alone on every Wednesday. Who knows how? I don't know what the ratings are for Canada, but that's another couple million. And then you've got like how many million across the world that watch this. It's like that's pretty cool that
It's different, that's for sure.
I believe it.
I mean, what it does for me is I have to make sure that I try to keep on message, and I have to represent, Nova Scotia archaeology as it is, so that can fly in the face of production. I try to help them as much as I can, but
sure. Of course.
Well, and that's something I had also wanted to ask, because we had talked about in the past. Obviously, you're not a treasure hunter, right? No. But it's kind of a conundrum. The archaeologists, they don't necessarily love that you're on the show or have had an interest in Oak Island, but it sounds like maybe that's changed. Like now they want to know more about it.
We've got some good support. I mean, the irony is I didn't choose to be on the island. I didn't say, I want to be part of the treasure hunt. It was the province that forced them to get an archaeologist. So the fact that people kind of shun me for being on the island is a little ironic, given the fact that it was the province who required an archaeologist to be there. But frankly, I'm over it all, so I don't really. I'd much rather be with the Oak Island people than most of the archaeologists in Nova Scotia.
Boom! Shots fired.
Well, and he's got other fantastic archaeologists there with him. I think it really validates the need, right?
Yeah.
Of just the finds, the Ball Foundation alone.
Well, it's funny. So a few years ago, just even like 3 or 4 seasons ago on the show, Marty was like, nothing significant happened here before 1795. Prove me wrong. And, that's happened now. Like there's stuff that show there was some kind of something significant happening prior to 1795. And, I'm thinking that maybe archaeologists maybe believed kind of Marty's line of thinking before that, because there's not a lot of proof saying otherwise. And now you got a lot of proof, so draws eyes, and they're like, oh well, maybe there's more than meets the eye.
Yeah, for me that was Smith's Cove. That was looking at the U-shaped structure and saying, oh, okay, it's going to date to 1860, and then getting 1740s or 1769 back kind of changed my perspective on the whole thing.
It makes sense.
All that dendrochronology, that's new science to us, and we're it's fun being a fan and watching it as a viewer, because we get to learn so much cool scientific different
kind of like different tests and technologies.
Just it's amazing being on our side too, and we can only imagine how it is when you guys are there and then it happens in front of you.
They love doing their testing, right? And these aren't cheap. These aren't things we wouldn't normally just send something off for dendrochronology. We just wouldn't have the resources to do it. So that's a pretty cool aspect of this job.
I imagine. And even since we're talking about Smith's Cove, we should mention his Facebook page.
Oh, yeah.
So you, in this last year, after this last season, I want to say.
After season 7,
yeah. You made a Oak Island archaeology page, and we got to see a lot of the pictures from the Smith's Cove work that was done. Was new to a lot of us fans, at least as far as up close pictures, and even kind of answer some questions. Have you found, I don't know, it sounds like it's something you've wanted to do for a while, was to be able to put that stuff out.
Yeah, it better represents what the archaeology is, for one, and it gives people kind of better access to what we've done, which can allow people to give us feedback, right? Which could lead to getting some answers. I'd love to find out what the U-shaped structure was. So I kind of hope that we post pictures, and perhaps people will have revelations about what it was.
Yeah,
that would be super cool.
Yeah. And we'll do the same with the Ball site this year. We'll be able to show more artifacts and perhaps a 3D model of the finally cleared out cellar.
Oh, cool.
3D model. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Ball site, like we would like to touch on some stuff with Lot 25.
Sure.
One of the we saw a lot of fun. We saw you guys doing a lot of work out there this year, a lot. And was it primarily you and Liz?
Yeah. Yeah.
We
I
saw
think
some people come out.
Miriam was with us for a day, I think.
Who was?
Miriam.
Oh, Miriam.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, we see people like Alex Lagina jump out there every once in a while. We'd see, I think Rick came out there a few times, but we also saw like Gary and was it David doing some metal detecting? So, you guys had a lot going on out there this season. Plus, we'll get back to like what you and Liz did, but toward the end of the season, we saw somebody that used to work with Dan Blankenship. He came on the show and they had some wharfs that or possible wharfs that were built off the end of lot 25 and I think lot 26. And so I mean,
Tony dove on them.
Yeah, Tony did dive on them. One of them was said to be like, it could have been like 16 feet wide and maybe 100 feet long.
Yeah.
That's insane. Yeah. That's insanity. What would be the purpose of something like that, and why two wharfs so close together? You know.
Well, that's a good question because Ball's lot's actually 25 and 26. And so the big wall that they show separates 26 from 27, and that's where the freshwater pond is.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, I don't know, because it was about that time we were speculating what Samuel Ball could have been doing. We had Aaron Helton helping us figure out how much cultivated land he owned.
And
from that, we were trying to figure out how much cabbage he could produce, and therefore how much sauerkraut he could produce, thinking that would be a commodity he could sell to the Royal Navy. And of course, it was about that time we found the commander's button, the naval commander's button. And the naval commander's in charge of loading ships. And then they found the wharf, you know. And I'm an archaeologist. I'm sitting there going, but these can't all be coincidences, right? They must tie together.
They would have to. I mean, we're trying to find logic here. I mean, Oak Island will do its own thing. Maybe throw a wrench or a button at you.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that button was kind of crazy. Like it was seeing the anchors on it was really cool. But like, what is that doing there? If it was lost by a British commander, officer, or whatever from the Navy, like, I don't know. What are the odds of him losing a button while just being at lot 25 once or twice? I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the most common item of clothing we find all around the island, and including during our excavations at the Ball site, in my cataloging program, we have a section called clothing, and there are 99.9% buttons.
Wow.
So you can lose them while you're working and things like that, but I can't see one just popping off of that guy's uniform and him not noticing. But it's actually the second button of that type. There was one found on Isaac's Point. As well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. That's really cool.
And a couple years back, we got where Gary and Charles had found down on the shore. I don't remember if it was lot
24.
Right? They had found all these different things that would suggest, hey, there were enough people that would gather around here that, you know, coins might fall out of their pockets or whatever. So did Samuel Ball have a lot of visitors? Was it Navy? Was it what?
Yeah, that's an intriguing area. That's when I first came in, right? And we found lots of artifacts, but just coming from this thin gravel layer. We're finding a similar thing on the Ball site. And we're not really sure yet how that developed, why that's there, and what's tying the two together, because they're pretty much the same time period. What we were finding on lot 24 and what we're finding on 25.
Crazy.
So there's a relationship there somehow.
Connecting the lots.
Yeah. That was the name of one of the episodes of the season, I think, Connecting the Lots.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty good.
And as far as lot 25, I mean, we know you have found all kinds of pottery and a button a potential door.
One of my favorite funny parts of the season was with you, Laird, was with so that's when Alex was over there doing some sifting, and he found a piece of pottery, and he's like, "Oh wow, Laird, look, I found this piece of pottery." And you're like, "Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, we're gonna find a lot of that.
Yeah, you're gonna find a lot
of the pile."
But he was really stoked to find that first piece.
He was,
yeah.
But then he found what he thought was a coin or a button, and the look on your face was like, "I just sat down."
Yes.
Exactly. It was classic. It was amazing.
It was worth getting up for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was genuinely excited. He came back the next morning and he'd already researched that button.
Oh,
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. He seemed like he was really excited about his find.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. So what else, like behind the scenes, what else are there any fun things that you found on lot 25 that didn't that we may not have heard of? As you said, you found a lot of buttons, like 99.9% buttons. How many buttons would that make? Ish.
Oh, I'd have to look it up.
Well, if he said, 1,900 finds.
It must be dozens.
There'd be a lot of buttons.
I probably fewer than 20, actually. It's not a big artifact.
You don't have a big jar of buttons.
Yeah. No, I don't have a big jar of buttons.
Do you have a jar of like Steve found rocks?
Yeah, God. I don't have a jar that large.
Yeah, it require a big bucket.
There was a funny time when Liz was working on the barn. I don't know if they showed the barn at all.
I've seen it on a couple maps, but they didn't go into it.
She was working there with Jack, and they were finding nothing, and they were going off in a tangent, talking about weird subjects. And I was working alone, and the producer came up, and they were being filmed. Producer came up to me and said, "Could you go find something?" So I went down to the bottom of the ball foundation, went scrape, 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 and found the hinge to a door. So
I remember seeing that.
That's how that all played out. Go find something.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny that you were redirected and then you made a cool, important find.
Mm-hmm. I guess I should have said something earlier.
That's some good happenstance right there.
Right.
Yeah.
About that door, though, that's something that people have been asking about, and we were curious too. Like we didn't see the door opened, the hatch under the ball foundation in the cellar.
Right, which means I can't talk about it.
Oh darn! Maybe next. Maybe
it's
when
like,
we review
it's like the tunnel last year, right?
Right. I was saying that's where you sleep at night. It's like your secret hatch.
Yeah.
You're guarding the ball foundation. And,
you just open the door and there's like a cot where he sleeps.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
I'd love to find that.
Yeah, that was super cool. Yeah. I mean, what's been going on. Okay. So something about Samuel Ball. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I see people post things like on Facebook that it's just like a bench and it has like the words above it. If you could sit and talk to anybody on this bench for 1 hour, who would it be? From anybody of all time, right? And I always think to myself, man, I'd really like to talk to Samuel Ball and know what he found, or just to get an idea of to know what he knew, because he seems like that kind of he's that as far as Oak Island goes. I mean,
he's a mystery in himself.
He is just such a mystery, and I would just love to know more about him. So I'm glad you're doing the work to find more out about him.
Yeah, and we really hope to do more research. I know Chip Reed would really like to do more research, but international travel is a problem. Coming here and doing local research is a problem. So, but I think we're gonna keep up. We're gonna keep up the research on Samuel Ball and see what we can find on him. Right? It's really fascinating.
Yeah, that's kind of how you ended this past season. Was like, we've done a lot, mostly what we can do here in the cellar, and like to look at the historical context here. Research is a big part of everything that happens on the island, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, one thing about Samuel Ball is some people had questions after that button was found. It was a British Royal Navy button. People did think or ask, hey, does that mean he was part of because we knew he was part of some kind of military.
British. Yeah.
Could it have been the Royal Navy? Have you found anything that says yes or no, or is he more like an infantry kind of guy? Or
No, he was Black Pioneers, so he was a non-combatant. Did a lot of tree cutting and road building, that kind of thing. Yeah, which is what he did apparently when he came over here as well.
Road building.
Yeah.
Tree clearing. Could it be?
Well, I looked at how much rock he moved just to build the 2 walls that he has between 24 and 25 and 26 and 27. So those walls are 3 feet high, 6 feet wide, and about 1,000 feet long.
Oh my gosh.
And he's got 2.5 of them.
Wow.
And I forget what the number is, but I worked out how many thousands of tons that was for him to move. And it's astounding.
Wow. The Egyptians built the pyramids. We know that there are ways to move large rocks.
And he said to have some money on him, right? So maybe he had a lot of hired hands.
Well, that's the thing. We do know that Isaac Butler did actually take over after Samuel Ball died. He stayed in the house.
Okay.
Because we're finding some evidence of post 1842 artifacts. So that was pretty cool revelation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you want to move into listener questions?
Yeah, we got
this
some
one
listener
seems
questions.
super relevant.
Yeah. Okay, go for it.
Okay,
So she's gonna bring up an Instagram question.
So because I had a couple from Instagram I wanted to share, and this one seemed relevant right now. So wanting to know if we can discuss the size of the Ball property in comparison to other properties, other property sizes at that time.
And that's from Sunshine Life BB.
All right. My only experience with Black Loyalist property ownership is Birchtown in Shelburne County. So that's where Samuel Ball was before he came to Chester.
Okay.
And they had small lots and were granted about 8 miles away 10-acre farm lots. But Samuel Ball's land acquisition, I think, is really unusual. We have because he was paying a lot of money for these properties, right? Plus, he had 100 acres on the mainland as well. So I really think that what he owned was truly unique, certainly for the area. It was a lot. He spent a lot of money and owned a lot of land, and we're not really sure why he was acquiring, because they're not contiguous, right? They're spread out around the island.
Yeah.
So I think his land ownership was unique, and certainly unique for a Black Loyalist.
Well, that makes sense. That's really something to try to wrap your head around, though. Like, why? What's the why?
Yeah, which is why we look under the ground, and hopefully that will give us some clue, right?
Well, he's kind of like a horse of a different color. He's like a kind of a special,
He's
unique,
an intriguing story.
Unique story, yeah.
I feel like I learn a lot.
Cool. All right. Do we have any other questions from
Instagram?
Instagram?
I think this one actually comes from like your biggest fan.
Oh,
by the way.
Yeah.
Let's take a look.
Steve wants to know.
Stephen Guptill. Okay.
He wants to know what makes Steve your favorite person to work with.
He's always really, really well dressed. That's what I like.
We saw you at a stunt double.
Yeah, we did see that.
AJ Baca.
Yep. AJ. Yep.
Yeah. They literally do buy things for each other. It's really kind of cute.
I thought that was a joke.
No, it's true. Oh. AJ will show up and say, I have a shirt for Steve.
What?
Yeah.
Besties right there.
I know.
That's really funny.
Why isn't Steve buying shirts for you?
Well, I don't know. I don't know why AJ is buying shirts for him.
Maybe we need to. I'm going to put that on the Steve Guptill interview questions. Why are you not buying shirts for Laird? He's hurt.
He recommends brands to us, right? That's about as far as it goes.
They're all hanging up in his trailer, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
No, Steve's a great guy to work with. I write a lot, so we get along really well. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, pretty soon, since they expanded the trowel team, they're going to need to maybe expand the surveying team, to keep up. Because you said that you used to maybe need 2 or 3 Steves out there. It would help out a lot.
Yeah, and there's certain technology we can use that can make life a little bit simpler for us and take some of the pressure off Steve, because he does have someone at his arms constantly pulling him in different directions.
I can't imagine after seeing the map at the end of the season, and if that the 700 artifacts, and that doesn't even include, like you said, what you've done at the Ball Foundation, in addition to having to move the drill rig, right? And keep track of all that. Whew.
Busy guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So I got some question. Oh my gosh. It just went away.
He had all his questions and then they vanished.
They just vanished and I didn't even touch anything. It's fun. All right. So I got some questions from Facebook. They're not as well. I can't present them like Deidre does.
I'm better organized. Just to, obviously.
That's very true. All right. So, and if I can't pronounce your last name, I'm just going to say a letter. Okay. So this is from Joe H. All right. He had a couple questions. They said that, we already covered the 700 objects that have been found, but that didn't include what you found on the Ball site. But in your opinion, what is the most unexpected find this season?
The find that impressed me the most, the artifact find, was actually the ring bolt. Because I was there in the morning when they said, we're going to go out and we're going to look for a ring bolt. And they found it. They found one. And I don't think they've ever found anything intentionally before. It was really impressive.
I was going to say, can't you say, I'm going to go find the treasure today? And then go find it.
That's what they should have said that day.
That's what they should have asked Dan Hinsky where it was, right?
Yeah. But that was a combination of historical research and having Gary at the metal detector, and boom, they found exactly what they were looking for.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's kind of bizarre. How bizarre.
All
right. So Joe H also asked, if you could work on any area of the island, what would your focus be and why?
Oh, I would stick with the Ball site, to be very honest. We're also interested in looking at where Donald Daniel McGuinness originally stayed. I think we've concluded that what we did 2 years ago was not his house.
Interesting.
Yeah. But Samuel Ball, I mean, you could spend 10 years probably working on his property and trying to answer some of the questions, like what was he doing there? Is he buried there? Right?
Yeah.
So we have lots of areas still left to explore just on the Ball property.
So if he was buried there, are you kind of hoping to find him?
I'm hoping I wouldn't dig. We wouldn't dig him up. We'd find him.
I mean, but what if you're digging and you're like, oh, there's a hand? I don't know.
Well, hopefully we'll be. We think he's in an area just kind of outside of where we're looking. We're really hoping to find any graves using remote sensing, so we could just delineate the area and recognize it. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really cool. So that means there's probably not any record of where he is buried, right? Yep. If it's up in the air.
Yeah. And the trend back then was you get buried on the farm. You didn't get buried in the churchyard.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know.
Very cool. You want to take the question from the OG?
Oh, Agnes Brooks wants to know, what's the make and model of your favorite trowel?
I started off with Marshalltowns. This is actually it's called WH. Another one ordered from England.
Okay.
And then my new favorite is it's by a place called Anvil and Yew. He's a blacksmith in England. So it's a cherry handled spring steel hand forged trowel. And I have 2 more on order, so that's my new favorite. Yeah.
Very fun. So we
but Marshalltown tends to be what most archaeologists use. Yeah.
Very cool.
Laird's fancier than that. So he does fancy prowls and Steve does nice clothes.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
When you're the most famous archaeologist in the world, you kind of have the cool stuff.
You got a custom whip too, then? I was going to ask you that because you said you get a lot of Indiana Jones jokes from the crew and behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And you get less of them now that they can spread them out to the other archaeologists.
Yeah, I don't get them as much now.
Oh,
they save them for everyone else.
They can just pass them on.
That's funny. Hey, I have a question for you. This one's for me. Is I think maybe, just maybe, you should go out investigating with Maddie Blake on Beyond Oak Island. Beyond Oak Island is the spin-off show where Maddie has, and actually Gary kind of had a couple of his own episodes where they go out looking for treasure around different places in the United States. It was for the first season. But I think it could be fun that, if you went with Maddie to like Egypt or something, you explain some kind of like, maybe put it into terms we would understand for archaeology stuff they're doing over there, or maybe not just, maybe somewhere like in South America, or we think it could be a lot of fun if you popped up on 1 or 2 or 3 of those episodes every season if they continue doing the show.
Yeah, no, I think that would be great.
Yeah, wouldn't it be fun?
Yeah,
cool. I agree.
I'd like to point out Scott Barlow just showed up in the chat, and I think he's a big fan.
OMG.
Okay, I think you have a new.
He's an admirer for sure.
Oh, definitely. You should buy shirts for him.
Yeah.
You two can match. It'll be fun.
It would be fun. No, hearts for Scott.
Hearts for
Scott.
It's almost Scott Barlow Appreciation Day.
2 days away.
I know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, a year ago, Steve Guptill put up a big post on Facebook saying how much he appreciated Scott for everything he did for him the prior season and how much he meant to him. And we just said, we ran with it. We said, well,
we took it too far.
It must be Scott Barlow Appreciation Day. And now it's a new holiday.
So
we still on every May 12th going forward.
He knows who to fuck up to, that's for sure.
That's funny. All right, so we got another question from Joanne. It says, how do you secure the excavation work for the winter so you can start up again in the spring/summer?
Well, I mean, normally with our regular excavation units, we just we fill them back in after we're done with them, fill them back in with soil. Taking all the boulders out of the ball foundation kind of presented us with a new challenge because the boulders were actually supporting the walls, right? And some of which aren't in great shape. So we had Billy's people come in and use some plywood, which there's probably a lot of money to put in that thing now. Plywood and 2x4s to reinforce the rocks. We tried to get a stonemason in, but we couldn't actually find one to come to work on, to kind of rebuild the walls. But that's something we may pursue this year. Cool. So we just make sure that everything's, it's going to stay in place. It's not going to cave in. But that's usually done by just refilling your hole.
That seems logical.
Yeah.
That was way too simple, except for the plywood. Right now, that's not logical, but at the time, it made sense.
We just have to make sure Billy didn't go back and take all his wood back.
No, I think Scott's gonna go sell it all for retirement, and you may, if it's missing, you may want to go after Scott.
Yeah,
good call. Yeah, so thanks, Joanne Klein, for that question. All right, so we got another question from JD Bonza. Are the winters so bad and severe, the weather-wise, that no work can be done during the time? Not even metal detecting?
No, our winters are all. That's a Prometheus Entertainment line. Our winters really aren't that bad at all. I think I think I figured out the lowest temperature we had this year was about 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Not a lot of
bad. I'm not gonna lie.
That's cold where we come from.
Is it? No, not a lot of snow. And I've actually worked in every month of the year.
Wait,
you guys are close to the 45th parallel, right? So you're halfway between equator and North Pole.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are too where we live, but we're like on the other side of the United States. And I don't know, maybe once it got down to like 25 degrees Fahrenheit.
I'm thinking 5 degrees. That sounds rough, Laird. Like
well,
how many?
It gets down to about minus 15 at the most around here. Celsius. Celsius.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
But it's still like really low and cold.
But it's never, I don't think it was cold enough this year to freeze the ground very solidly. So you could have kept going.
Well, you need a few months to sleep to catch up from all that time you put in. So
yeah, we were pretty tired by the end.
Yeah, there you go. Downtime.
It's hibernation.
It's downtime. Needed. All right. So Jan Anderson asks, what item found on this year on Oak Island do you think is the most significant? Why? I think we kind of covered that, right? But number two question is, what is the oldest artifact you have ever found, and where was it found?
So the oldest artifact I ever found was about a 12,000-year-old spear point, and that comes from an area near Truro. So that's up where Terry lives. Actually, it's the first settlers in Nova Scotia about at least 12,000 years ago. So that was pretty cool. It was the first one found since like 1964.
Wow. Yeah. Well, congratulations. When did you find that?
That was 30 years ago.
I wonder if another one's been found.
I don't know.
That's really cool, though. Actually, speaking of Terry, I think when we did our last hangout chat with you and with Steve, you guys mentioned that there might be a big gag
like
reel
a
Terry thing,
outtake of Terry's big accident. I've been looking for it all season.
Yeah, we never got to see it.
Yeah, no, it's not for public consumption.
Oh, okay.
It's not for public consumption.
That's funny then.
That's even better. Oh, bummed.
Did Laird freeze?
Oh,
Laird, are you there?
Oh no.
He's like, I'm done with you guys.
Oh no. Hang on. I'm gonna remove.
Uh-oh. We'll bring him right back. 1 second.
Oh, you're back?
We're back. Woohoo.
Yeah, you said it wasn't for public consumption and then you froze. I was like, uh-oh.
No, Prometheus is watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, they stopped us in our tracks. That's funny. All right, so Melanie Suter asks, what made you want to get into archaeology? And what is your favorite dig/find? Maybe let's go outside of Oak Island for your favorite dig.
Yeah. My favorite dig, it's Birchtown. It's so that's quite close to where I grew up. I moved there when I was 12. The largest settlement of Black loyalists in North America was there. It's an amazing story. Samuel Ball was there. It's an amazing story of the journey from South Carolina, joining the British in New York and New Jersey, and then making your way to Nova Scotia and kind of trying to make a living out of it's a really, really rocky, hard land to make a living from. And my favorite site there was a pit house. So this is when they got there in September, and the weather, they're from South Carolina. The weather was coming in. So what was recommended is they basically just built a hole in the ground and put a roof over it. And that's how these people lived probably until the 1790s.
Wow.
So several years in there. And I found one of those during one of our surveys. That was one of the coolest sites I found.
Wow. Can't imagine how those people lived when it rained or something, it gets all flooded. That'd be a real rough life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you can't even picture it.
No.
It's not something you can wrap your head around.
But very cool as far as archaeology goes. Yeah. All right. Anne McCutcheon asks, if you had a chance to explore an an archaeological site, what would it be? Like any other one that you haven't been to?
You know, if I retired and went on to do something in archaeology, it's going to sound kind of strange. It would probably have more to do with World War I and World War II in France and Holland.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's what I find really fascinating. So, and they're losing sites very quickly because of development. So, a lot of people are needed to do that work. So I enjoy the war aspect. I actually like working with human remains. I've done that quite a bit. So it's I think it would be really, really interesting to do that.
So did they not have an archaeologist come in or someone ahead of time before, kind of like what you've done in the past, right?
They have a very narrow window to go in, get as much work done as they can, and then the bulldozers come in. So yeah, it's what we call salvage archaeology. Yeah.
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's kind of too bad too. I mean, it's too bad those sites can't be preserved for generations to come. But a lot of it's probably beachfront property.
Yeah, exactly. Prime land.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So Jack Campbell, from one of the hosts over at Could It Be, or no, not Could It Be.
Not Could It Be. Where could it be?
The Curse of Oak Island and Beyond. He asks, how long does it take to get test results back from the artifacts that you have sent out for?
It takes anywhere between probably 2 and 6 weeks, depending on what you're having done. The dendro's a little more labor intensive, right? He has to make sure it's all evenly cut and polished and things like that. But yeah, usually between 2 and 6 weeks.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It seems like on the show sometimes that they find something, and at the end of the episode they tell us, oh, we got the carbon dating back, but they just try to make it flow all nice and good for the show. So
makes sense.
Makes total sense. All right. You want to read any of these, or am I good? All right. So Linda Loud asks, of all the years you have done archaeology, where and what was your aha find? Is that the thing you found, that pit?
Yeah, well, I mean the 12,000-year-old spear point was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the pit was kind of neat because it was on a power line cut, and we kind of walked by it, and I looked back and went, we better go test that, right? And so we almost walked by it.
Wow.
And the next year we had some St. Mary's students there, and we excavated the whole thing, and they actually left me alone there. They went back home on a Friday. So I was digging all alone in this pit.
Sad.
I know. Very hard, what we call hard pan that they dug into. And I was digging, and this piece of the wall fell off, just the soft piece, and you could see where the person's shovel blade is just, you can see the shovel blades. The guy in 1783 was digging out the hole. And it was really weird. It was like, it creeped me out because I could feel a presence there. I actually got up and looked around. It was so strong. So that was really the closest thing I've had to an aha moment, was feeling how close those people were at that moment. It was kind of like a Outlander experience. Yeah.
Is that like a TV show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
She walks from the 40s into the 1750s.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Oh, yeah. Maybe I've seen a commercial or something. Yeah, that sounds a little bit familiar.
Yeah.
That's cool. Let's see here. Patricia Miner asks, how does what you discovered about Samuel Ball's house differ from what you expected?
Well, I mean, it's compared to the McGinnis house. Ball's cellar, his root cellar, is probably almost 3 times larger, right? So he had a lot more room to store things. for whatever reason, because he didn't have a huge family. He had a family of 5 or 6 at the most.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then at some point, I don't think it was explained on the show. At some point, they have a hearth, so the fireplace base that was at one point you could walk around it. At some point, somebody filled in the end, so it looks like they renovated it as well. And then I wish I could talk about the tunnel, because that was a very unusual feature of the house.
Everybody's wanting to know about the tunnel.
Yeah, but the tunnel kind of got skipped over in season 8 as far as us learning more about it, because it was like a big feature at the end of season 7.
Yeah.
We talked about it being what looked like a box drain coming.
Oh, did they? Yeah, it's a box drain running from the southeast corner of the cellar, which is really, really odd. Like, you can see it. It's right in there. So
yeah, one of the things that you had brought up in this season, you did say that there was a giant drain.
Yeah, because Rick asked if or Marty asked if you had looked further into it, and it was like, it doesn't make sense. I've never seen anything like this coming from a house.
Yeah.
No, because it ran quite a ways, but if it was open on the one end and open on the other end, then you're gonna have rats and squirrels and raccoons coming in. We don't know why it was there.
They could be helping with the dishes. Maybe he was like a Snow White, like singing, and maybe that's how the dishes all got broken, though.
Probably.
You never know.
You never know.
All right, so let's see here. Janet Gibson asks, what and where were you working on before? What and where were you working on right before you got the call to work on Oak Island?
I have my own company, so I was doing projects, the highway projects, or I've did a lot of work in downtown Halifax. When the convention center was built, my company did that, in the library. So I was doing a lot of work just within Halifax and Halifax County on various, whatever they call me about, you'd put a bid in and do the work. So it was a bunch of different projects.
Very cool. Doreen Stroud asks, did they get the test results back from the keg lids? And did they do that on the show? Like, they said that they could be up to 500 years old, but that's based on Carmen Legg's assessment.
I don't remember seeing any type of scientific testing.
Yeah. Do you recall anything about the keg lids?
I don't. No, I don't recall getting any results from that.
Yeah, that was like more of like when you were heavily focused in lot 25. Rick just happened to see these on the ground, I think after probably Billy had pulled a scoop or something.
Yep.
Thank goodness he saw him. And that was like another thing, like when Gary found that tool that looked like it had a right angle, it was just kind of there, and it, it's not something you can find from metal detecting. So it's cool. I'm glad these guys have like the eagle eye vision.
Oh yeah,
those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of.
I
think most of the questions are kind of like repeats.
Okay. Yeah.
We discussed.
Yeah, like Connie asks, so what is your most unusual find? We got that one already. But she'd also ask, have you been stumped by something you found?
Oh, artifacts all the time.
Yeah,
for sure. The biggest puzzle I have is, again, from Birchtown. There are 2 areas of rock mounds, like different shapes, different sizes. It's difficult to describe unless you see the map of them, but we have no idea why they're there. We think the Black Loyalists put them there, but that's one of the biggest mysteries I'd like to see solved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Can you go back down? I think there was a question right at the bottom there from Paula. You probably don't know anything about this, but can you throw that up there? What does it say? Did they find the 90-foot stone, or are they still looking for it? Do you know anything about the 90-foot stone?
I believe the search is ongoing. Yeah.
Probably the charge is being led by Doug. Still.
Yeah, of course.
And I hope he finds it someday, because man, if we found something that can be confirmed like 90 feet in the ground randomly, I mean, that could tell us a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
That's like the number one thing I want them to find, personally.
Yeah, you're pretty committed to the 90-foot stone.
Well, it's such an enigma, right? Like, what is this thing doing? If they did find it at 90 feet deep-ish, or 80 feet, or whatever it was, back in, 1803? I mean, what is it doing there? Who put it there? And
why?
Yeah.
I
might have to leave soon.
Oh, okay. That's fine. I was gonna say we need to go ahead and
get wrapped up.
Yes.
Yep.
Let me kind of toss it to you and just say, is there anything that you would like or wish fans knew or want to share in particular?
Well, I really like the idea of the behind the scenes. I think that was great for the crew. I think I'm going to try to record more behind the scenes for us, for people, and see if we can get permission to share that. A lot of people think it's a treasure hunt and blah, 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 but they don't see not only how hard people work, but how much, as we said before, how much we've invested in this whole project, right? It's an all-consuming thing, and it would be nice if people knew that.
Yeah, well, if you did end up doing some kind of behind-the-scenes stuff, it would be consumed by basically everybody.
Yeah.
We love it.
We would love it if, maybe if you can do that, and then have the official Curse of Oak Island Twitter account and Facebook account share those kind of things. Man, people would devour that. They'd be so excited to see it. So we wish you luck. We hope that Prometheus signs on for something like that with you guys.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there any updates with your elephants in Thailand?
I haven't actually heard much more about them yet. No, we keep holding out hope that we can get back there.
Oh, that would be awesome. I know you went just before the pandemic struck last year, so
we just got out.
I don't say you barely got out, and just like in the nick of time.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So I guess that's it. That's all the questions and everything I have. So.
Okay. Same here. So I just want to say, of course, thank you for joining us. Hopefully, we're going to get to do it again here eventually.
Yeah.
Soon, and hopefully y'all get back to the island soon.
Yes.
Fingers crossed again. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, once you do get back there, we wish you guys the best of luck, and we hope that you find something that makes your head spin and makes our head spin. So.
All right.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Laird, and have a great evening.
Yeah.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for your time. Take it easy, sir. And thanks to everybody for tuning into this special interview with Laird Niven tonight.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Do you want to trowel?